Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. My name is Cole and I am creating this YouTube channel to talk about the issues and the fallacies as well as the overall just incompetencies in news media and just how reporting is done in general in this country. Quick backstory about me, I'm an independent politically speaking. I believe in some issues I fall Republican on, some issues I fall Democratic on, some issues I'm conservative, some issues I'm liberal. Overall, I just have, kind of a mixed bag of beliefs, and that's going to mostly stay with me. The goal of this channel is not to try and sway anyone about a certain point, but actually just to point out the issues of what is, the A-list, if we're going to call it that, reporting that happens, the kind of news that the majority of the country is digesting. So, I want to look at Fox, I want to look at CNN, I want to look at MSNBC, I want to look at OAN, I want to look at all of these different channels and networks that are just completely falling short of doing any sort of credible reporting. I'm absolutely against political pundits. I think it's a complete scam just to sell news and make a buck at the expense of, the American people knowing what's actually happening in the world. So ultimately, that is the goal of this channel. I've always had a ton of issues with, everything that's going on and all networks across the board. We see it all the time. And I wanted to start off the first episode of this channel and talk about a great example that is in the news today. It's kind of been sparking some headlines for really no reason. It's been, and I have a great video, about Jon Stewart and some comments that he made about J.K. Rowling and how news media has taken it and run with it to sell papers, to sell news, to sell ads, and ultimately how it's just a complete joke. And so I wanted to just quickly start off and just pull up this recording that went live today, I believe, or yesterday, later in the day yesterday, and just kind of start that off. So we'll switch over to that.
This is bonkers, guys. So if you remember, like a month ago, I recorded one of the podcasts with Henrik and Jay, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we were bullshitting about all kinds of stuff. And we started talking about bar mitzvahs. And then Jay said something like he did a funny riff on it, like what chapter of Harry Potter was that? And we went off on a Harry Potter thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no reasonable person that could have watched it and not seen it as a light-hearted conversation amongst colleagues and chums.
This is my favorite part.
Having a larf, enjoying ourselves about Harry Potter and my experience watching it for the first time in a theater as a Jewish guy, and how some tropes are so embedded in society that they're basically invisible, even in a considered process like movie making, right?
Absolutely.
So we did that a month ago. So like 2 COVID mutations ago, back when we were still in like beta world or whatever, wherever we were. This is a month ago. This morning I wake up, it's trending on Twitter, and here's the headline from Newsweek. Jon Stewart accuses J.K. Rowling, J.K. Rowling
I always
of
say that wrong too.
antisemitism. So let me just say this, like super clearly as I can. Can I get a close-up? All right.
You're in control of your own camera.
Bring your face
I'm in control of my close-ups. All right, let me do this.
Camera 1.
Hello, my name is Jon Stewart. I do not think J.K. Rowling is anti-Semitic. I did not accuse her of being anti-Semitic. I do not think that the Harry Potter movies are anti-Semitic. I really love the Harry Potter movies, probably too much for a gentleman of my considerable age.
So I just want to pause it right there for a second. Basically, if you haven't heard of this story, Jon Stewart just as he said, he had a podcast and he was just making jokes about, tropes that exist in movie making, and they referenced that happening in Harry Potter subtly, right? It's off the cuff. It's not a big deal. It's totally just 2 people talking, and this show is very comedic. It's just making jokes, right? So naturally, Newsweek just jumps on this and decides to say, Jon Stewart thinks J.K. Rowling is anti-Semitic, that the Harry Potter movies are anti-Semitic, and it's a complete joke. So, just a little bit of background to how ridiculous the story is.
So I would just like to say that none of that is true, and not a reasonable person could not have looked at that conversation and not found it lighthearted. So let me say this instead to Newsweek.
I love this.
Your business model is fucking arson. And not the good kind. Not the good kind of arson where they light stuff and control it to prevent forest fires in the future. The kind of arson where you're on the mountain and you've got fucking 5 minutes and you don't know where the dogs are. Like, that's your business model. And now all the shitheads pile into this ridiculously out of context nonsense that you put out there. And let me tell you something, Newsweek. You used to mean something. You know what I mean? You were my go-to at the airport when the kiosk was out of Time magazine. Boom! Roasted. Weekly magazine roasted.
Yeah. Not a Hudson News.
So again, I cannot stress this enough. I'm not accusing J.K. Rowling of being anti-Semitic. She need not answer to any of it. I don't want the Harry Potter movies censored in any way. It was a lighthearted conversation. Get a fucking grip. My final word is simply this. Good day.
A good day, sir.
I said good day.
You know what this means?
So ultimately, that's the clip I wanted to show there. And just for a little bit of context, I do want to point out the actual article so that we can kind of see this right here. Let me get myself out of the way. Hold on. All right. Okay. I'm just going to drag myself out of the way in this manual way. Okay. So let's just quickly look at what this article is saying, because it is a total joke. Newsweek.com, Jon Stewart accuses J.K. Rowling of anti-Semitism in Harry Potter. This came out on the 4th, which was 2 days ago, so that was Tuesday. Jon Stewart pointed out that what he described as an anti-Semitic trope in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series and questioned why there is not more outrage over the Goblins of the franchise. Never happened. Like, literally never happened. And I know there's a lot more of this article to jump into, but like, if we can just take a moment right there, when did it become okay that reporting could just completely lie, right? Because that's a complete lie. It's not even, and I know that, I feel like there's so much slack given to news, right? And I think a lot of that is because of just the way media is consumed now, right? There's just so much news being pumped out every single second that you can say basically whatever you want within a degree of truth, right? Like maybe half a degree of truth, right? And it's fine because in the next 2 hours, you're going to put out like 1,000 other stories, right? And so not only to mention, like, does it matter even if Jon Stewart pointed out that Harry Potter was anti-Semitic, which he didn't, but let's say he did, like blatantly, right? Is that really newsworthy? Maybe not, right? So, I mean, that's up for everyone to debate, but it doesn't matter because it didn't happen. So that's just my biggest issue is just that it's a complete lie, and it's totally okay. I mean, they're coming under fire because Jon Stewart's amazing, and he called it out because that's, shouldn't be his responsibility, but I believe he probably feels that it is, to point out that the fact that this is a total joke. And I think that this got pumped out probably more so than it normally would have because of the fact that there's like a Harry Potter reunion, coming out, I believe, this week. And so that's probably part of the controversy because Newsweek can make more money, get more clicks that way. So I just can't get over the fact that this is not news. And, maybe in this case, there's going to be a little bit of repercussion, but usually there's not, right? Because they just keep printing out more news. And a retraction, this is the big point, right? A retraction in today's media doesn't mean what it used to, right? And, I'm not I'm a relatively young guy. My hairline says differently, but when we were consuming news primarily through a newspaper and there was a retraction, it's a bigger deal because you're only getting one newspaper from each publication a day, right? So printing a retraction takes up a limit of space that you have, right? So it's a bigger deal because first of all, you're gonna have to sit with that and you can't just change that. You can't take that web page down and everyone is going to have access to that. It's not a matter of maybe people will see the link or not. It will be in their newspaper that they get. So there's much less hiding from printing retractions than the same experience online in websites and in news and TV. The way that we consume it nowadays, we can just bury it on top of 8,000 other stories that are going to come out today. That might not matter at all, and they might have any relevance to the American people, but it's fine because it gets the eyesight off of our retraction and onto something else. So that's my big rant, but I will finish this article just to kind of get the whole context here. In response to coverage of his remarks going viral in Newsweek, as well as Variety and Times of Israel, Stewart tweeted a video which he stated he is not accusing Rowling of being an anti-Semite. Okay, so obviously we're a little bit too slow to this because they've already put in their update, right? So, let me get to the rest of it, and then I'll say more. He said his remarks were a lighthearted take on his experience as a Jewish man watching Harry Potter for the first time and how certain anti-Semitic tropes are seemingly deeply embedded in society. Stewart said, I do not think J.K. Rowling is anti-Semitic. I do not accuse her of being anti-Semitic. I do not think the Harry Potter movies are anti-Semitic. Jon Stewart said that a reasonable person would have found his podcast conversation to be lighthearted. Newsweek. Absolutely incredible. I'm not going to repeat that, but obviously you can read it. Speaking on a recent episode of the podcast, The Problem with Jon Stewart, the former host of The Daily Show shared his frustration at the apparent anti-Semitic tropes in the films and books. Stewart, who is Jewish, said that the Banker Goblin character who runs the Green Gods bake. So, okay. Here's my favorite part of this, and I didn't even know this until reading through it right now, right? Because I didn't see the changes that had been made. Let's look at the timeline here, right? And I wish I had I have a whiteboard over there, but you wouldn't be able to read it from that distance. So, Jon Stewart has a podcast, right? And he jokes about, makes a joke about an anti-Semitic trope that exists in a lot of movie making. Wasn't making a huge deal about it. They were cracking jokes, right? I mean, Jon Stewart said that himself, right? Newsweek picks this up as a way to get clicks in the midst of Harry Potter being a big deal right now because of this big reunion that has been, talked about and advertised a lot. Obviously for clicks, no real sense of true journalism there whatsoever. But then Jon Stewart comes out and, he didn't need to, but I love him for it, was like, hey, let's set the record straight. I never said this. This is a total lie. And proceeds to bash Newsweek for their lack of competence, for their lack of journalistic integrity, and talks about how it's a total joke. Then Newsweek does the bare minimum and prints a retraction, kind of. I don't even know if this can be considered a retraction. He says, in response to coverage of his remarks going viral in Newsweek, as well as Variety and Times of Israel. So, oh my gosh, it just makes me so mad. In Newsweek, at least the bare minimum, like 1% of integrity here. In Newsweek, they notice how in Newsweek, in this own publication, that they messed up. But let's throw in Variety and Times of Israel as well, which, I mean, I think that it does get mentioned in the rest of the podcast, like for a second, but that's not the main point. Jon Stewart, his response and coverage to his remarks going viral is 1000% for Newsweek. It's not about anything else. He's ripping on Newsweek because that is the publication that really took it too far. In his own words, right? That's what he said. So this is what just blows my freaking mind, is that they're printing a retraction, which isn't really a retraction because they proceed to continue saying all of the complete lies that he just ripped on them for, that forced them to say, in response to his coverage, he said In a video, he states he is not accusing Rowling of being an anti-Semite. Then, they have this, which at least is at the beginning of the article, so maybe 2% of journalistic integrity. Stewart said that a reasonable people... Okay, yeah. And then it just jumps straight to speaking, which I just still can't get over this. I absolutely love this. Speaking on a recent episode of the podcast, the former host of The Daily Show shared his frustration with the apparent anti-Semitic trope. So maybe this is part of the original article. I can't remember. But then they just go on and they just keep saying the lies. Like, they don't retract it. It's not even a retraction. It's them saying, hey, by the way, before you read this article, which we already got your ad revenue on because you clicked on the website, right? So now we're just sticking on there for the extra minutes that you're spending on my site, right? You already clicked on it. They didn't take it down, which would have been the fair thing. I mean, you shouldn't have done it in the first place, but at least you should take down the article and then print a new article that states how your first article was complete bull. That's the only reasonable thing you should be doing right now. And I can't get over the fact that they will not do it. Jon Stewart accuses J.K. Rowling of anti-Semitism in Harry Potter. No, he doesn't. And I apologize, I think I'm clipping on my microphone, but it just doesn't happen. And I know I'm going in circles here, but I can't get over just how ridiculous, in his own words, the business model, the news model, is arson. It's just, let's just spit fire. We don't care who we destroy. We don't care what kind of repercussions, as long as you click on the link. And I just can't get over the fact that this is what's considered news. I don't understand it. And even when they're caught, even when they have been pointed out to be complete, utter bull by the person who they were quoting, the whole premise of their story was that this person said this thing, the person comes out and says, I didn't say that thing, this is a total lie. And then they just are able to continue to get away with it, and people will still click on it, Like, if I Google right now, Jon Stewart. All right, so let's look at this, right? Joking. So here are all publications that are saying Jon Stewart, is joking about it. Okay, good, great. Well, okay, Hollywood Reporter. I mean, obviously, that's a joke as well, but it's still, the link is still on the first page. We've already established that it's a complete lie. The link is still on the first page because of SEO. And SEO, for those who don't know, I work in digital marketing. SEO is search engine optimization. The goal is to craft an article, a web page, whatever content you're putting on your website, is to craft it in a way that ranks it higher on Google. That's all SEO is. That's digital marketing 101, right? And news publications are amazing at it. There's no doubt about it. They're amazing marketers. They're not good reporters, but they're definitely good marketers. It's still on the front page, even though it's the antithesis of news. This is a complete lie. So I don't know. Let's finish the article. I know I'm just ranting now, but it's just a complete joke. I don't want to say the parts that are a complete lie because they're a complete lie. Yeah. Rowling's representative declined a request for comment. And this is something too. Let me jump back over here real quick.
So let me say this right now to Newsweek magazine. Dispirioso lamentoso.
But you don't know what you just said in wizard speak. You could have made another mistake.
I probably accused her of anti-Semitism in wizard speak. Man, the internet economy is fucked. You have no idea how this thing is taken off, and her agent has to answer for it.
Absolutely.
And now people are coming at me what about the anti-Semitism?
See, that's the part. Her agent has to deal with it now. What did he just say there? He said,
has to answer fucked. You have no idea how this thing is taken off, and like her agent has to answer for it.
Her agent has to now go through an entire PR scandal right before the biggest thing that they've done in years, which is the reunion show that's coming out. And now people are going to see this article. They're not going to see the retraction because, obviously not really what it is. And people are busy during the day. That's why it's so important that news gets it right the first time. And if they don't, at least they print a substantial and meaningful retraction that explains to people in real depth what they did wrong, right? They should own up to it. Literally, the irony here is that J.K. Rowling, excuse me, I don't remember the right way to pronounce it. J.K. Rowling is not an anti-Semite. I mean, obviously by this, there's literally no cause to call her that based off of this, right? And so that's not news. The irony here is that a news publication roasting her for clicks, that is newsworthy, and it's not getting the time of day from the publication who had the first story. Other publications will run it because it's part of their interest to look at a competitor and tear them down and also get those clicks, because now this is just as click-worthy. In my opinion, it's more click-worthy. So now people are writing about it because they're going to get more ad money. But it's just not, it's not even being covered. You should delete all of this. Everything after this tweet, Newsweek, eat my ass, amazing. All of this should be deleted. All of it. That is a joke. And look, and J.K. Rowling had to. Let's read the replies. Because I'm sure there's a lot of vitriol in some of these. Okay, well I can't see them right now, but with J.K. Rowling, of her stature and of the popularity that she has, we know that there's a lot of hate she's going to get from this, from people who saw the first thing and didn't see the second thing. So, all in all, I'll end it here, but this is what I want to point out with this channel. This is, I've been thinking about running this channel for a while now, and because I've been so upset and so just overall just frustrated with the apparent lack of journalistic integrity. I know I keep saying that, it's really what it is. And I wanted to make this channel for a long time to kind of point that out and show both sides of whatever story and why something is a total joke, and not talk about the politics, just talk about the reporting. And that's what this channel hopes to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize that I think a lot of these videos are going to be me being frustrated, most likely, but that's my honest opinion. I really feel like this, news publications, they get access to a lot of benefits by being news publications. I can't talk on the, obviously, for-profit companies have to pay, have more tax burdens and things like that than nonprofits and things of that nature. I don't know enough about it to really dive into it, but I will say that journals, at least for nothing else, news publications, they can use things without having to get permission because of the fact that it's for news. So when you have a news company that gets the benefit of being a news company that isn't doing anything but reporting slander, that feels wrong to me. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know if there's stuff you want to hear about. I'm going to be covering, again, publications on all sides. I'm not trying to push an agenda. All I'm trying to do is point out how journalism is failing us in a lot of regards. And maybe I'll find some good examples of, journalists doing it right as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.